Hello chess lovers, I have another spectacular game for you. With the white piece is playing Arvid Sundin and his opponent is Erik Andersson. This was a correspondence game and was played in 1964. In pre-internet era, postal chess or correspondence chess was a very effective method of playing against a geographically distant opponent without even meeting in person. Usually the moves were sent by postal service or by telephone. Moreover, sometimes even homing pigeons were used to carry messages. Now let's see how this game went on. Arvid Sundin started with e4 and e6 by Erik Andersson, French defense, d4, d5, knight c3, bishop b4, black goes for Winawer variation, e5 and queen d7, black is choosing the Petrosian variation. By placing the queen on the 7th rank, black is indirectly protecting the pawn on g7. The idea of queen d7 is if queen g4 then black can respond with f5 and already the pawn on g7 is protected. But after queen d7 we see bishop d2 in the game. b6, black is preparing to exchange the light square bishops and get rid of this French bishop. f4, knight e7, queen g4 and g6. Well, not quite clear why black played g6. Playing knight f5 or castling king's side would have been better, but instead we see g6, which is somehow weakening the dark squares. Bishop b5, c6, bishop d3, and after bishop a6 we see the exchange of light square bishops on a6 square. Queen e2. Now the knight on a6 is under attack, queen b7, not a good move. Playing knight b8 and then playing c5, knight c6 would have been better, but instead after queen e2 we see queen b7. Actually the queen on b7 looks somehow misplaced. Knight f3 and another strange move by black, rook b8. Actually all this looks very awkward. King f2, white is making an interesting decision, not castling but placing the king on f2 square, which maybe gives white more dynamic options. We see bishop takes c3, b takes c3, and finally c5. Now comes the queen, queen b5 check, knight c6, rook b1 and black castles king side, after which white is starting a pawn storm on the king side, g4, knight a5. Well, black is planning to bring the knight on c4 square, but actually it's already becoming very dangerous on the king side. Meeting white's aggression with f5 would have been better, but after g4 we see knight a5 and here comes f5. Knight c4, f6, knight c7, queen b3 and queen c6. Instead of playing queen c6 it was very important to get rid of this dark square bishop, but instead after queen b3 we see queen c6. Here comes bishop h6, rook c8 and h4. This time white tries to open up the h file. a5. It turns out that the queen on b3 square is misplaced and now black is threatening a4 in order to trap this white queen. But Arvid Sundin played h5 allowing a4. a4 by black and right now the queen on b3 square is trapped. But it turns out that Arvid Sundin had already calculated everything. He went for this brutal h takes g6 move and sacrificed his queen. But black didn't accept the sacrifice and recaptured on g6. But let's have a look. What if a takes b3? Then white can play g takes h7 check and after king takes h7, bishop g7 check. If king g8 then rook h8 checkmate, or if move like king g6 then rook h6 checkmate. Or after h takes g6, if h takes g6 then again bishop g7 and the mate is imminent. That's why after h takes g6 we first see f takes g6. Still black is threatening to capture on b3 and calm-heartedly white is placing the knight on g5 square. But it turns out that this is an inaccurate move. Instead of placing the knight on g5 square, bishop g7 is stronger. The idea is that if a takes b3 then white can go for this insane rook sacrifice on h7, threatening rook h8 check followed by knight g5 checkmate. Now if king f7, then bishop h6 discover check, and then rook g7 check, and then rook e7 check, and black king is simply entangled in a mating net, and after rook h1 it's over. The threat is bishop f8 checkmate. Or after rook takes h7, if king takes h7, then again the other rook is coming, and then black king is getting checkmated. Let's go back, but after f takes g6 we see knight g5, a takes b3, finally black is accepting the queen sacrifice, but this is losing on the spot. It turns out that queen e8 could give black some chances of equalizing the game. If f7, then simply black can capture on f7 and then on b3, or after queen e8, if bishop g7, then h5, and still black is managing to hold. The engine offers queen takes c4 and then rook g1, evaluating the position as equal, but of course both sides have to be very careful. One wrong step and the game will be over. Let's go back, but after knight g5 we see a takes b3, and as I've already mentioned, after this move black's position is collapsing. Here comes f7 check, king h8, and knight takes h7. White is simply sacrificing his pieces one after another. Now if king takes h7, then bishop f8, and this is a checkmate. After knight h7, black captured on c2. Right now, as you can see, the rook on b1 is under attack, so the knight is hanging. But here Arvid Sundin landed another heavy punch. Knight f6, sacrificing the rook as well. Black captured on b1 and promoted the pawn to a queen. And this time white is promoting the pawn to a queen, f8 queen check, after which black finally resigned. But what if rook takes f8? Then white can play bishop g7 check. If king takes g7, then rook h7 and black king is mated. What a game! So many pieces were sacrificed, and finally white is managing to checkmate black king with the help of a knight and a rook. This is truly an immortal correspondence game. Thanks for watching, and I hope that you enjoyed this insane attack. Good luck.